That's all recorded. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of the RGM Experience podcast. If you're new to the show or the shindig, ladies and gentlemen, then welcome to you all. My name is Carl Maloney, and here we are delving into the grassroots music industry and beyond, basically finding interesting people within it and talking to them. And today, ladies and gentlemen, we've got an amazing guests for you today. We've got Zach and Michael from Dictator. Hey up, lads.
How you doing, man?
Yeah, nice man.
Man.
Here we go.
Listen, if you're looking for interesting guests, you have picked the wrong two guys. Unfortunately, we don't get much more boring than Dictator.
I've just been to the gym. That's
fair enough.
So I was slightly late. Hey.
Right. Okay. So, well, that's a crap way to start an interview.
It's just honest.
I know. Better set your expectation where it belongs.
I've always said as RGM, I always like to get to know people that I see grafting online, and I've seen Dictator all over the place. You know, you're out there grafting, doing your thing, creating this amazing music of yours. I've had your EP on for the last week or so, just really enjoying Rubik's Cube, and I just wanted to have a chat with you and get to know you a little bit. So welcome, guys. Let's do it.
Nice one. Thanks for having us.
Nice one. So fun stuff going on behind the scenes. You've got music coming out. It's festival season. There's loads of stuff going on. You've been out there in the world touring and getting the Dictator name out there. Where do you guys feel like you are within the music industry at the minute? Then just introduce yourselves and where do you feel you are within this fucking grand scheme of things?
I like to think that we're actually carving our own wee lane within the music industry. You know, we do things quite differently, I suppose. Even the type of music that we're making, we fall kind of reluctantly into that indie rock category, but that's not really who we are whatsoever. We draw on electronic music and hip hop as influences. Yeah. So I think that we're really just keep ourselves inside our little pocket and we just do what we want to do, and I think that's good because then we're not getting influenced by maybe what might be popular at the time. You know, we're just doing what we want to do. So, but we've found a really positive community in the sort of the grassroots artists and the grassroots supporters. So, and we're obviously at that level. We're not arena headliners or anything like that. We're quite comfortable. Exactly. Well, we're quite comfortable. Just as independent artists, just working away.
Yeah, no,
that's fair.
Yeah, where do you feel, Michael? Do you agree with that, or?
So no, definitely. I think, see, in terms of where we're at as a band, we were all like excited at the start, right? And I think everybody's like ready and raring to go, right? And we've went through the curve, right? So as in, like, and the curve is touring, right? You as a musician go away on tour. You soon realise that all your hopes and dreams of being a musician, you get to realise what they are, right? And they get stuffed and crushed. But then you come back and you pick up the pieces and you go, right, I don't really like that, but there is things I like, and actually I like this, and this, and you get a little bit more picky, but you double down on the stuff that you like doing, right? So I feel like where we're at, we are genuinely probably like living the dream. See, if you asked us like 10, 15 years ago, when we were like kind of younger, we are genuinely the definition of success back then with the things that we've done, right? We feel like we're at the foot of this massive mountain, right? But the difference is that we've started realising that we're kind of wee bits along, that we're a bit like quite happy here. Like, you know what I mean? It's always like you get halfway up for the après-ski bit, and then you're sitting there going like, this bit's actually quite class. Just bear that in mind. The peak is no what it's all cracked up to be. So I feel like we're maybe a couple of rungs up the ladder. So right? We're maybe a quarter of the way up.
Which bits of it specifically were giving you a bit of PTSD then?
Been stuffed in a van, right? With these guys for like 3 or 4 days. Nah, to be fair, right, I tell you what it is it's a lot of stress around money and logistics, and like genuinely, you think about like quite a lot of people, depending on what they do for work, right? The hardest things to procrastinate over are sending emails and like and managing your account, managing your money in your bank account, blah blah blah, worrying about what bills you got to pay. That is basically touring. Right? Yeah. So you've got no money and you've constantly got to update everybody. Now, as you start to progress, you get people who jump on along for the ride and help you with it. But like driving, and it's class, like don't get me wrong, but like it's just like, see, for the first couple of times you do it, you love it. But then you start to go like, right, you're away every other weekend, right? And then you start to realize that you've got lives, you've got families, you've got other halves that you're kind of sitting there going like, oh, this is actually quite. You start to see why there's a sort of cycle of people who it can get really stressful, and you feel like you've got little control over it. So it's specifically right. Playing the shows is amazing. But I remember we played a show in Newcastle and the trains got cancelled, right? Like everybody's train got cancelled. And it was maybe like 15, 20 people pulled out. Now the show was still a success. It was still good. We sold a lot of tickets, but we're 15, 20 people down. And there's nothing more demoralising than like, we've just literally been travelling for 4 days. We've rocked up in Newcastle. We're buzzing about the gig. And then you're just so drained. And actually it takes you a couple of days or weeks to recover. And by the way, I'm not painting this as a negative, like, because it's still amazing playing shows. Yeah. It's just, that'll test you. That'll genuinely test you, because you realise that there's more of this to come on a sort of more stressful scale. And actually, like, you need to be sure that you're wanting to do it. And actually, it's not a bad thing. You feel totally demotivated after it, but it's really good, because you get to ask yourself that now, not when you're signing up to a major label, not when you've got thousands of people waiting on you performing, not like all of this stuff. Actually, you just get to go and do it at your own pace. So it's hard, but worth it.
It is. I love hearing stories like that, because it's the real world, and that's definitely a place I live in. And a lot of bands ask me for advice on how to progress and that kind of stuff. But and one of the first things I say to them is, decide if you want to do it for a hobby or if you're in this for life. Because you can spoil the experience taking it too seriously if not all the members are really committed to the cause.
Yeah,
that's popular in. I won't say the word popular, but it's common within bands. There's people that aren't committed as other people within it, and you basically decide if it's going to be a hobby. Then you can go out and enjoy playing live music, do whatever you do, play 5 times a week, do whatever you want to do. But the honesty and the graft and what you have to do to try and make a living and get the holy grail of earning money through the music industry. That's the real world, and that's. You've described it really well there. That's basically sums it up, doesn't it? But it peaks and troughs all the time.
Pretty much, and you never know what's around the corner.
Yeah.
So you're planning against that. You think about any other business, like any other line of work, and we are all quite committed, but we're also quite professional people when we take it seriously, right? And the thing is, like, we genuinely, like, we do muck about, but we do care. It's not, I mean, didn't mistake like passion for like the fact that we don't see it for what it is. We just really care about what we do. So we want to be the best at it, i.e. the best we can give at the time. And sometimes I think people misinterpret that as like maybe a bit boring and stuff like that. But it's actually the opposite. Like genuinely, like we do take it seriously for a good reason. Because we don't want to look back and go, oh, we would have made it if we didn't go and sing pints after every show, and then by the second show we couldn't sing, stuff like that. So I don't know. It's good though. It's good to have these moments,
How do you find progressing, getting gigs, booking the venues, doing the tour and stuff as a band from West Lothian, which Zach was just telling me is between Glasgow and Edinburgh. It's in between there then. How do you find it, a band coming from your area and looking to get out and about?
I think like West Lothian has had a wee bit of a moment in the past few years with Lewis Capaldi and the Snips. So I think, I don't like to say that we're riding in their coattails, but we're definitely riding their coattails, man. So it's not been too bad. The social media aspect of it has really helped us to connect with people all around the country. Yeah. So it's kind of made it a bit easier to connect with promoters in different areas and different cities, and also booking venues in different areas and different cities, and then being fairly confident that we can go to London and play to a decent crowd of people. Yeah. So being from West Lothian, it's not like the most supportive area in terms of arts and creative people, but it's not really been a hindrance to us. I don't think anyway.
Well, rewinding before you both got into music, then let's rewind a little bit. Let's zoom out a little bit. So, talk us through you both individually. What were you like growing up? That kind of stuff. In school, just finding your way in life. Talk us through your individual journeys before you got into music.
I'm looking forward to this one, Zach, for you. But Nah, to be fair, we both grew up in West Lothian. For me, I've always had an interest in music, right? So like this has genuinely been like a lifelong pursuit of mine. I think before music, so like when I was younger and stuff like that, I think everybody has that same origin story, right? In terms of some way, shape, or form of getting an instrument and then getting obsessed with that instrument, and then kind of that's when you start to look up to your heroes and stuff like that, and then you try and emulate it. I think everybody from whatever maybe age of when they get it, maybe 5 to 10, up until they get into teenage years and started going fully developed for themselves, are trying to emulate whoever that they first kind of heard, right? So for me, I was actually mad into the keyboard, right? So everybody gets like a little keyboard for a kid. My dad had a little sort of Casio keyboard, right, with a wee bossa nova sound and
I
stuff
was
like
going to
that.
say
And
that with a fucking
yeah,
bossa nova. I was going to say
yeah.
that.
So I can tell you for sure that will definitely be used on the album, right? So like, in some way, shape, or form, that's getting
It's on.
used. But that was kind of like where I started, right? And I kind of started to learn. One of the earliest things is like I obviously progressed and you get better at it and you start understanding like chord progressions and stuff like that. And I went to see Calvin Harris, right? And this was a way back when he was doing his Acceptable in the 80s stuff and all that, right? Went to see him at the Liquid Rooms. That was my first ever gig. I think I was 10, maybe 11. And I just remember coming back and devouring that album and basically replicating every sound on my keyboard, right? And going away and adjusting the sounds to match what he had. That was my first. Like, see if there's anything like mapping directly to what we're doing now. That was my first instance of that, right? I think I got an acoustic guitar after that. I was mad into the View, and then basically from the age of about 12 to 18, various forms of bands. Right, various like attempts, like playing all these the Battle of the Bands, or we used to rent out. Everybody's a Catholic up here because we went to Catholic school. So if you speak to us, right, anybody we speak to is a Catholic or a Protestant. And basically, there's a massive weird thing of like it's either there's loads of halls, so many halls, right? And I don't know how it is back where doing where you are, but there's either a Masonic lodge, there's some lodge, some hall you can play in. We've played them all. So like literally if it's been for like some random aunt's 75th birthday or something, you're playing. Normally it's like, oh, they'll play. So you're either in a pub. You used to rent the Canon Holborn Hall, which is a hall right next to the Catholic Church in Broxbourne. Used to play there often, right? That was my first sort of like gateway into what live music was. We used to put on nights and we used to like, printed off little tickets and stuff like that, right? That was like for the age of about 15, 16 when you first started learning how to drink and stuff like that. So I think for me, that was my first paving into it. And then basically throughout the kind of years beyond that, just getting more and more into like mine's is like production, like synths and like and learning like so I use Logic, which is like I said digital the DAW if depending on if you write music and stuff. That's my bag. So I like synths and creating music and like music production, and that's kind of like really where it's evolved, as well as a live element. But I feel like every single one of us before Dictator had a grounding in this mad live environment because you were plenty of old guys who didn't want to hear you. So like genuinely, like see by the time you actually there's people who want to listen to you and are paying for tickets to your show. Oh, you could eat that up. It's great. There's no pressure there, you know.
What was some of the band names?
We've got the Barrels. Zach and Alan were in Japan 4.
Okay.
I can't remember what we were before that. We were something else before the Barrels. With loads of different like variations on the name. Still got quite a lot of the old stuff. But they just loads of different. We were in the Phantoms. We were like that's where the crossover first happened. Where we just up jamming, kind of semi joined the Phantoms. Played Transmit, the first ever Transmit up here, and then we were like, like these guys are actually on the same wavelength. And I think like we kind of realised that if we gave it a good go, we could maybe get a little bit further than we had before. And genuinely, that was the goal, a little bit further than we had before. We're in no man's land. We don't know what we're doing next. We don't have a clue. We weren't betting on this. We just knew we could get to a certain point. Now we're just foraging in the dark.
Have you self-taught yourself the production and Logic and that kind of stuff, or is there opportunities around you to learn these things?
Loads to learn. So like, see, we've worked with a lot of good people, and like the more so like songwriting. I write the songs, and how I kind of work is so I've got a Mac Mini, and kind of like as the idea strikes, that's usually when things get taken apart. I normally start off with a beat, much to the kind of disappointment of our drummer, who like Who gets this beating? Because can you just play that exactly the same? That's kind of what happens, but not in a bad way. Like we do end up letting them go freestyle, but yeah, start off with that and then build the kind of the song around it through logic, right? Now, what's happened is over the years, the more people we work with, you take little nuggets, right? And especially on songwriting and things like that, that's where I've really learned a lot through getting challenged. There's a lot of good people, like friends that we've got who we've got Adam Warrington, who's the guitarist for Youngblood, right? He's worked with like the guys who worked with the 1975 and stuff, right? And he's sitting there giving us like little production tips that he got for them. So it's like an ever evolving thing. I've devoured a lot of like kind of material, right? Just like Mark Ronson's like school on how to produce and stuff. It's just an ever evolving thing. Try to figure out what my stamp is, if there is one.
How did you get those contacts? How did you create these different arms of picking up skills?
Just by being class. No, I'm joking. No, just like see, just
or blaggers, mate. Blaggers.
Yeah.
I've got a very red neck, mate. A blowtorch wouldn't give me a brass neck, honestly, man. So I just reach out to folk. Adam was different. Adam's from the West Lothian as well, so we kind of knew him from the circuit. But the majority of people that we work with, because we're just like, oh, they seem to be quite interesting. We'd like to work with them, and then we shoot them a message, and they either reply to us or ignore us.
Fair enough. Talk us through your journey, Zach. How did you get into this bloody place we've all ended up?
I never really grew up, but like there was no musicians or instruments in my household, but there was always music. My mum was like an old raver, so we had lots of dance music, lots of trip hop and soul and stuff like that. But that like always, I was always listening to music all the time. That was what I did. I got into playing music because just a mate was like trying to start a band when I was like 11 or 12 or something. Yeah. He kind of taught me a few riffs on his guitar, and then I got a guitar, and that was me. I was hooked. And like Michael says, we would all join in bands at that age, all in the same circuit. And we had sort of in some of those bands we were fairly successful, like in relative terms anyway. But I was just a wee fanny, man. So I thought it was all about the rock and roll lifestyle, and I feel like we maybe pissed some of those opportunities up the wall until the Phantoms came along. Me and Michael crossed paths, realised that we were into sort of similar. We wanted to create similar styles of music, and then when Dictator sort of launched, and we had that outlet, I kind of screwed the nut a wee bit, and we were basically really passionate about what we were doing, and it takes up all of my attention now. Yeah. So it's a short story.
No, it's so. Well, one thing I saw on your socials earlier is that what's the skateboard thing? That's just come to me. What's this skateboard in your socials earlier?
That's just me. So like we're fucking skint, bro, right? Like we are absolutely rigged, and we're about to launch like loads of new music. So I was able to like I'm a skateboarder when like I was younger, and even though I don't really skateboard anymore, I still have that mentality. I still think I'm a skateboarder, but I would fall on my arse if I ever tried to ride one. But yeah, I just thought it would be a fun merch idea. So I kind of bought some blank decks, and we've always got like Dictator logo like silhouettes floating around everywhere. So I had some of them, and I've just been painting some skateboards. And nice. When I finally get one to the standard that I'm happy with, we'll raffle it off, or we'll sell them. Like there's already been some interest, so we'll probably just sell them and use them to fund the next batch of releases.
Yeah, because I do notice that on your socials that you remind me a little bit like Fat Dads. Do you know Fat Dads?
Yeah, they've got the best band name.
Yeah, just class. They're from like more Cumbria, pop Scotland, Cumbria way up your way. And I always enjoy their socials. They're just having a laugh on it, and they're just trying new stuff, and they're experimenting all the time. And I see you guys experimenting, and not. One of my big bugbears is that bands are really boring at the minute. They're announcing that everything's coming out at 6 o'clock tomorrow, and it's just going to be a single one, and it's just like an half-arsed release thing, and it's just a bit boring and flat. There's a lot of that going on that I see in the industry a little bit, but I see you guys trying fun things, and just getting your fans' advice on stuff and going with what your fans say as well. It's really engaging what you're doing. How do you plan ahead for that kind of stuff? Where's all that come from?
Just fucking wing it, man. We're just constantly winging it. Like it's just like let's try this and let's try that. None of us are like too precious about it. And so if somebody's got an idea, we're like, go with it and see what happens. Pretty much. But like you talk about releases being boring. I don't even know if we'll tell you when our next release is coming out. It might just appear on Spotify and hopefully you find it. Like because things are boring right now. It's always the same story. Oh, big announcement at 5 p.m. Oh, it's a new song. Oh, it's the gig. It's like, right, you didn't need to like keep all these wee teasers. It's pointless. This is just it is boring. It is stagnant at this point.
It is. Yeah.
I'm not having a dig, but like, come on, guys, level up, man. Get creative.
I am a little bit because I'm right bored of seeing it. Because obviously at RGM I follow thousands of bands, and it's quite lazy to do it. They just see other people doing it, so they think, oh, I have to do that because other people have done it. But there's hundreds of bands just regurgitating the same old fucking boring shit. So I am having to go. I want people to spice it up. I want people to be more experimental with it, just to engage a little bit more. And if you do engage a little bit more, I'll be knocking on your door for a fucking interview. You don't need to message me every 5 minutes asking, because it's not going to happen until I'm entertained by you. So
right, Michael, let's hire a skywriter. You know those planes, and we'll just put announcement at 5 p.m. in the middle of the sky above Manchester.
The announcement is the announcement. That's what's going to happen, and we'll just keep doing that, and you'll actually miss the release because it's just in between. See, the thing is, as well, is just genuine honesty, right? Yeah. There was a moment but you also have to build a wee bit of hype, right? And you have to, in order to do that, you have to starve people a little bit of what's happening. So, like, I mean, there is 100% psychology behind it, but as you say, what ends up happening is it's like when you get marketed on TikTok and stuff. Yeah. No one genuinely wants to be sold to, right? So like you might like our music, but it would actually turn you off if we were like, listen to our next single. And if everything we said was to try and like get you to click a link or get you to sign up to something, it would totally turn you off. And so like 100%, like, and one of the things we're realizing is that who we are and what we do, music's one element of it, unfortunately. Right. This is one of the key kind of penny drop moments for us, maybe in the last couple of years, is that music is one of the legs of what we do. Live music is another element of that, but social media is another element of that. There is like live content, right? So like we've obviously got a Patreon now, because for us, what we hated doing is that we were caught in that cycle of creating content for people that we didn't really want to create, nor did we want to try and thrust down people's throat. That's a really bad recipe for making engaging content, right? Because actually, I didn't want to be doing it and you didn't want to be watching it. Brilliant. You know what I mean? Where there is actually Patreon, totally different. Could not have changed the game anymore for us, because of course I want to make content for you. If you're a monthly subscriber, I'll go and sing you songs that you want. Like, you know what I mean? I'll sit there and I don't sit there and go, oh my God, I have to. No, totally fine. I will do the best version of that I can, because I appreciate the people who are watching it. And not only are they going to sit and pay us to do it, they're going to sit and take their time to watch every bit. So even those 10 to 15 people who might watch on the first day, say, right? That's 10 to 15 engaged people. And then over the course of the week, as the more Patreon subscribers watch it, it's like it's like a little community, and it's completely different. And I think for us, obviously, there's an element of like, we're just trying to be as real as possible in terms of, and even saying things like that make me like, be a wee bit sick. But what I mean by that is that we're trying to be as honest as possible, right? Because of course we didn't want to be like, guys, announcement at 5 p.m. Like, of course we didn't want to do that. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? We just be like, we've got a song coming in. Hope you enjoy it. Move on. You know, like it's just, you just want to be like that.
I can remember right at the beginning of the year, I did like some tips for bands to take into this year, and having a Patreon was one of them, because you are creating your own community, and mailing lists is another good one that a lot of bands don't really utilize. But having those people that have signed up to your mailing list, or they're paying $2, $3, $5, whatever it is on Patreon to invest in your band, and because they're interested in what you want to do, in those type of accounts are more valuable than anything, I suppose.
100%.
Can we just put a disclaimer in there that is, if you start a mailing list and it becomes moderately successful, that you will then be forced to start a Patreon, because your mailing list will make you start subscribing for it. and it costs an absolute fortune.
Yes, yeah, I have noticed that actually. Like MailChimp, in it, it's like, is it like 250 quid or something if you've got more than 500 names on a mailing list or something? It's just, yeah.
We tried to set up 2 different accounts. We tried to do 2 and 2. So like we could go and build the list again and just duplicate. So we were going to go and set it up to another email address, but we've outgrown the amount, which is terrible because we're not a business either, right? Like ultimately, we no doubt will be at one point, but we're not a business yet. And so like it's just like, God, we just want to, you know what I mean? It's, you get punished for doing anything good because either someone nicks it for you or you get limited in some way, which is just so annoying.
Yeah. So there was some, I can't remember who it was on Twitter that were talking about it. It was when Facebook and Instagram went down the other day, and everybody went onto Twitter saying, "Is your Facebook down?" But it makes you think that people were like, "Shit, it's my business." People were like panicking a little bit because it was like their arm had been cut off because they couldn't go on Facebook for an hour. It just shows you that if you haven't got a fallback plan, if you haven't got a Patreon, if you haven't got some kind of mailing list, whatever size it is, then you're kind of fucked if it gets taken away from you and you've got no control over that audience. You might get your account hacked and then you fucked it and all, which is a nightmare.
100%. And also does not equate to ticket sales.
No.
Right? Yeah. And actually what's mad in all of this is that like you can back yourself a little bit. So we know our pool down in London, right? That's an achievement for us. Can I tell you how buzzing we were that we sold out in London, right? Twice. Just to show up for a second, because that's genuinely buzzing, right? We know people who are on like 30 to 50k followers on Instagram who can't sell out in their home city, right? And that is mad because actually you feel that you're failing when you're not competing with the numbers, at least social media wise, with your peers. But actually, your success and how you define it is different, and you're actually you're getting more engagement by people coming along a gig because they're like the hardcore. They're like, yeah, I mean, to get them and get them liking something, you must be doing something right. But that's kind of, you have to get comfortable at that. But that's why we don't care. We've not applied to be blue tick on Instagram, for instance, right? Because we're just like, cool, crack on. I quite like that we're not, if I'm honest.
Well, a lot of those people that you talk about, they've got 30,000 on Instagram. They've just followed and unfollowed loads of people, haven't they? They've just cheated to numbers in a way as well.
Some of them cheat, but some of them have genuinely organically grown a base, right? And so, like, and this is, I can actually like vouch for some of our like friends and stuff who we know maybe struggle ticket wise, right? But it's not always the case that they've got like bots and like the numbers are growing. Some of them are genuinely so organic. But what they have is like, it's not like a concentrated amount, or like, so it's really difficult to get that pool. So if you look at the percentage in like, I don't know, their home city, for instance, it's not the same. But that doesn't mean that that doesn't slight their online content, because their online content is amazing. And that's the thing for us, is there's nothing wrong with that. And I think sometimes when people talk about it, demonizes a wee bit, like, you've got all those followers, but you can't sell a ticket. No, that just means that they're learning the ticket side. We're learning the social media side. It doesn't mean, I mean, we're not competing. And I think for me, it's just like, but it is mental to see sometimes, because you must feel so successful if you're doing that. But then what a mental balance that must be, that if you can't sell tickets to your show. Like, what am I doing wrong? Because everything online is amazing, you know?
Yeah, it's just hard working. Apart from writing the tunes, playing the gigs, doing all the traveling, paying for everything, ordering the vinyl months in advance, and having a release day. Organizing people for rehearsals for 4 or 5 people to be in the same place all the time, and you've got to start making reels, and you've got to know how you do all that kind of shit, and you've got to kind of try to stand out against 100,000 billion people all doing the same thing. It's interesting in this world. We wouldn't have it any other way, would we?
No, love it.
How do you like it? Because just from an RGM point of view, when Reels came out, I'm like, oh, I just park that for a bit. Then started posting the odd for you, and you just saw you get a lot of engagement on, particularly on Reels and that kind of stuff. So you have to learn how you do it, and then you have to make an effort and spend time editing videos and knowing how to make the right size for Instagram and all that kind of stuff. How do you take to these new challenges that keep coming up in different ways of sharing your music with people, and all the different, like, you know, threads and TikTok and all, you know, how do you learn the new skills yourselves? How do you go about it?
Well, it's like a new, sorry, it's like it's just a new medium to be creative, I suppose. So
Yeah.
we're all relatively creative people, so
Yeah.
I actually quite enjoy it when there's something else new that comes along, and it's like, oh, we need to try and learn this. Don't get me wrong, we are still learning quite a lot of it, but we're getting better all the time, and that's the end goal at the end of the day.
Yeah,
I think as well we've
yeah.
invested a bit of time into it is another thing. So like actually we recognise that this isn't going anywhere. And so like there's a curve coming, right? And so like similar to a way back when people were like, I hate Facebook. Facebook is now genuinely like a staple of like, I mean everybody has a Facebook, even if you don't have it active, you still had one. But you've still got one, you've just deactivated. You know what I mean? But it's like it's such a thing that's embedded into culture that actually there's a wave coming, and if you go against it, and if you go against things like reels and stuff like that, it's absolutely nothing wrong. But you're just making it harder, especially if what you want is what it can give you. But I think for us, is we appreciate the fact that we were trying to cotton on to it and just see how we get on. And there's that kind of element of fuck around and find out, right? But what we've realised is that the good quality stuff not only makes us engaged, it gets more engagement. And so actually we've started investing, like Joe's got right into editing videos, for instance. And we bought, like, one of the daft things we done is we bought a video editing software so that he could learn it. And so actually there's like in time as we get better and we get more together more, and when we go on tours and stuff like that, we're a lot more aware. We're a lot more socially media aware, right, of what we have to do. And it's actually becoming a little bit, it's not becoming easier because there's still that kind of drag, but we're also starting to firmly know what we want to do. Whereas at the start, you feel like you're just trying everything, and if it doesn't get engagement, you're like, what's the point? Whereas now we're like, let's do this. Let's try and learn this for the sake of it and just video it, which is a much better place to be because then you can enjoy it.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And you mentioned the other guys, and let's give a shout out to the people that aren't on the video today. Let's talk about the other members of the band. Tell us a strength, what they bring to the band, and maybe a weakness, a development area for them. We can wind them up. We can wind them up a little bit. They're not here, are they?
Alan could be better with the money, to be honest. He's terrible with money.
Lost us loads. No, Alan, tell you what Alan does. Single trait that Alan has that he could improve upon. He slams his drum hard cases like they are, like he is Thor and it's Thor's hammer. It goes down. Anytime you go anywhere, I'm not joking, man, could be standing there for a quiet conversation and you're like, what? That's my only thing. I hope he hears this, and I hope he realizes how violent he is with this drum case, because it's just not right.
He could also improve his music taste slightly.
I know.
Go on.
He's kind of got a bit. He's got a bit of a Chris Martin obsession, in all honesty.
Oh wow,
it's somewhat embarrassing.
I was not expecting that.
It depends, but he's got a wide sort of range. But he's mad for a wee bit of Chris Martin, which is fair, wee bit of Ed Sheeran, wee bit of Chris Martin. Listen, I'm not gonna beat him up for it. It is what it is. But here you go.
Joe's a bit too anal, a bit too organised. It's tedious at this point. So if he could maybe just chill out a bit more, I would probably appreciate that.
Yes.
In what way? What is he responsible for? Like booking the room?
Needs a plan.
It needs a plan.
Just needs a plan. Needs a plan. So he just needs to learn to just go with it. Whether it's like, things change.
Yeah.
Things change. Shit happens. So hey ho. But the good qualities of them, brilliant at bass, brilliant at drums.
There we go. And we've not missed anybody. Have we covered everybody there? I want to make sure everybody's
No, that's it. That's it. Yep, all good. We get to split all that money we don't make 4 ways.
Brilliant, isn't it? So I've been listening. I was listening to Rubik's Cube recently, and what I really enjoyed about it is the transitions in between them. I haven't heard any other band do that and have a little performance. It's kind of a little performance in between each song, really on it. Just talk us through that as an idea and as a vision for Rubik's Cube, like because I'm really eager to know more about it. Tell me about it.
It kind of came from like hip hop albums, wasn't it? Because a lot of hip hop albums have like transitions and skips in between it, and the idea kind of stemmed from that. And obviously, Michael just ran with it and came up with some beautiful soundscapes to match in between it. And then that was our debut EP. And it was like when we were creating it, it was really special to us because we'd never really done anything to that scale before. And we were working with a great production duo. Shout out Jamie Holmes and Johnny Madden from the Seven West Studios. But we'd never done anything that grand, so we wanted to make sure that like we encapsulated how we were all feeling at that moment. So everyone kind of got their own wee like transition. So River is my transition, and it's named after my wee boy who was. He wasn't born at the time. He was just about to be born or something. I think he was just born actually after the EP was dropped. Then Joe's got J-Man, which is just encapsulates Joe's silliness perfectly, and Alan has Daddy's songs where he sampled his two kids actually speaking, and we included them all in the EP. So it was just to make sure that no matter what happens in the future, we will always have that to look back on and enjoy and listen to. And we can listen to that in 20 years' time and feel like the ages that we are now and feel that moment still, hopefully.
So how do you feel like you progressed, like looking back on all your previous releases? How do you feel you progressed as musicians and a band when you look back to when you first released a tune to where you are now, just getting ready to release more?
For me, there's a strong sense of identity forming, right? And I don't necessarily want to have an identity yet, which is a really strange thing to admit because when people tell you have to have a sound, I don't think we necessarily want a sound, but we do want an identity to know why we do things. And so actually, if you track every song that we've released and you see the variation, almost like different genres, like if you listen to that EP now, if we were to go back and do it, we perhaps wouldn't have included some of the songs because we find them a bit alternative to what the EP sounds like to us now, which is a really strange thing to do. But at least sonically, we're really thinking about who we are. And it's not even that, it's just that everything that you release, everything that you put up on social media says a bit about you. So actually you get a little bit more picky about what you want to say. I think for us though, for me personally, in terms of like writing the songs, learned so much in the way of songwriting and the way of how it's all kind of like put together that actually what like we used to do like sad boy ballads, right? So if you listen to a song called Hide and Seek, very like pour your heart out song. It's like, I mean, like, and I loved it, and it was on this sort of electric guitar. Now we've got new tunes in the bank that we've been away recording and we've been in the studio, and we still have that. We still have that kind of like that, like I like to sing and I like to get the point across, but it's in a completely different way now. And in fact, it's in the way that we want it to be because we're starting to sound like what we imagine Dictator to sound like. And I feel like Rubik's Cube, the actual song Rubik's Cube, was the turning point for us in that, where we finally, that was like when you're mining away with the pickaxe and then you just strike a wee bit and you go, that's what we've been looking for this whole time. And I think for any future music that comes out between after that Rubik's Cube to wherever, like to when we get to an album, no doubt that journey will just keep going and going and going. But for me, I think we now sound like Dictator. We know what we want to play live. We know how we want to come across live. We know the tunes that we want. We know how we want to sound. That doesn't mean sound the same. It means sound like Dictator. And I think that's for me the biggest growth part. Found a little bit of an identity of what we're trying to actually achieve because we've questioned ourselves for the last 3 years, which has been good and terrible in equal measure.
How do you feel about it, Zach?
Yeah, much the same. It's like we were an indie rock band by default because we'd been an indie rock band our whole life, or in indie rock bands, and that all the chosen instruments was all guitars and stuff like that. Yeah. But when we formed Dictator, we actually sat down and had the conversation and says like, this is the kind of artists that we're into and who we kind of want to sound like and draw influences from. But we didn't know how to sound like that. So our first few releases, it's indie rock by default because that's just what we knew how to do. By the way, like, I'm proud of those releases. We know how to do indie rock well. It's just wasn't really the target at the time. But it took us a good few releases, a lot of practice, a lot of recording to work out how to create the sounds and structure the songs in a way that we wanted to encapsulate properly. And I totally agree with Michael. Rubik's Cube was that turning point. It was like everything just clicked at that moment in time, and then we're sort of building on that now. So the next batch of releases you're probably going to hear is is Rubik's Cube on steroids kind of thing.
Yeah. But is it still going to be like is it because it's quite dreamy as well when I was listening to it? It's quite like more dreamy, very synthy, really dreamy kind of stuff. Just like really cool guitar parts and that kind of stuff. And I was before I started listening to it, before I wanted to contact you, I was thinking just from seeing you online, I expected your music to be different to what it is, and I was really surprised how dreamy and different it is. I've probably not worded that the best, but that's
no. Listen, I think I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah,
because see, for me, we like Conquistador, and there's a lot of like kind of dreamy guitar sounds there. Finn's another one, right? So Finn's a bit of a laugh, and there's a lot kind of contained within that. I think for us though, is we're starting to recognise that sometimes what you see isn't what you get. Now we love that, we genuinely love that, but in this new world, is there more that we could do to like, because that's not necessarily who we see ourselves as, right? And that's actually something as well that we need to genuinely consider about, like, what type of music do we want to make? For us, it was always to try and be a little bit like, we didn't want to do indie rock. It was to try and be synth driven and to be different to what we've done before. And that still is the sort of objective in anything that we do. Can we make it weird, right? And then you scale back. But genuinely what we're trying to do now is we're trying to match it up to the expectation of what we want in terms of what we look like, what we want to sound like. And I think like Rubik's Cube's like that. Like Rubik's Cube, the song is like that. But we mean the production of it. We don't necessarily mean the upbeat and the sort of like tightness of the song. It's the samples. It's the fact that we've incorporated synths and the live instrumentation and the samples and little funky bits in the songs that are so amazing live that have unlocked this like new thing. And I think for us, it is that. We've actually crafted an entire set around this kind of one song. And actually, we're now able to start saying, we're really good at this, play our strengths a wee bit. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, it definitely does. And could it get to a point where it's impossible to play live if you keep going?
It's already there.
Right. But that's the challenge. That's the challenge, because we like a challenge. It's boring. Plugging in the guitars and turning up. We've done that. we want to be challenged.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we'll move on to your new music shortly, but you've got a few exciting things going on in the band. Just what does it mean to, join the Marshall Live Agency? I saw you, we might as well have a talk about that. I know you're announcing that shortly. And, it's not been announced yet as we record this, but as this comes out, it'll be announced. Talk us through what this could mean for you as a band. Let's not presume until it's all sorted.
I think you've just jinxed us, man. I can't believe you brought this up, man. Come on. We set every year, like we set targets. We've got to be bored in the rehearsal room. And to get a booking agency was on it at the beginning of last year. I was like, right, 2023, we're getting a booking agent, because we felt like we'd made a name for ourselves. We felt we'd proved their worth in the live arenas. And then it never happened. And we were fucking gutted. Yeah. And we were like, fuck this, man. You know what? We're just going to do our own thing. We're just going to move on. Like, we book gigs ourselves anyway. We can keep doing it by ourselves. And then at the beginning of this year, I don't know what made me do it, but I just thought, you know what? I'm going to reach out and see if they're looking for anyone. Sent them a couple of the demos that we've been working on, and instantly they were just like, oh yeah, let's do it. Let's work together for sure. So it's amazing in the sense that all the hard work that we've been putting in, like last year felt like a real grind. It was like a fun year on the paper. It looks amazing, but actually, if you were to talk to us at numerous points last year, we would have been pretty like burnt out and pretty bummed out. So when little things like that come along, it just reminds you, it's all worth it. Actually, this is like worthwhile when we are gaining ground, even though it might not always feel like that. It's just it's a marathon. It's not a sprint, as they say. I know, obviously, to be like Marshall, the brand and music world is fucking iconic, man. Like absolutely iconic. So to be able to be associated with them is really, really cool. The only problem with that is none of us play guitar amps. Like we are all on so I don't know how we're going to reconcile with that, man. But it's fun though. It's rewarding and it's exciting.
Yeah, I do see how much Marshall supported a band called Jen and the Generations. Jen and
The Degenerates,
Degenerates. That's it. Yeah, I met
much
one.
like us.
Yeah, I'm rubbish at remembering names. Yeah, Jen, I had him on the podcast, but it was during COVID a long time ago, and I'm crap at remembering stuff. But yeah, they are on their roster, and I've just seen them just get elevated, and just seen the support that Marshall have offered that band. It's just great to see there's still these big companies giving back to grassroots music as well, which you don't see much about as much these days too. It's nice to see that.
Yeah, they seem pretty committed actually to
Yeah.
really bringing up new artists. I
Mm.
don't think they're too interested in bigger artists or heritage artists at this point in time. They seem really focused on the grassroots arena and to really build on those acts. And I definitely feel like it comes from a passion of new music. It's not. It doesn't seem like it's any sort of business orientation, although I'm sure it is because it's a massive company. But it feels much more like it feels very honest, and it feels like it's just because they love music and they want to help like music move on to the next stage, I suppose.
Yeah, you could tell when people are faking it, and everything they do with the bands on the roster that they're supporting. That I follow them online anyway. It does feel genuine. It does feel like they're in it for the right reasons, and they're genuinely supporting people rather than a sales type of pitch. It looks great.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we're excited to see what it holds, genuinely. And it's nice to kind of, there's a match of ambition though. Quite often people don't understand that it's like actually signing up to them means more work. And we've got a healthy appetite for that. But I think sometimes people can kind of get signed up to these things and go like, brilliant, my work's done. No, we fully appreciate what we're signing up to and what we're getting into, and we're looking forward to that because it's kind of like another pair of hands rather than we'll just give you this and bugger off, which is good.
Yeah. Well, one thing I wanted to ask you about is, life on the road a little bit. We're just looking through your biog earlier. You've supported friends of the podcast. We've had Ratings on. We've had Revan and the Makers. I've not had the View on, but I'd love to have the View on. Kyle, if you're watching. But what was it like playing the big stages with those type of bands? Give us some stories about life on the road on the big stages.
To be fair, some of the best memories, like doing all of this, was on the Ratings tour. The Ratings tour was like our first. I'm going to put it in the bracket big boy tour, right? And I just remember like there's been so many moments. Some of the things though, right? So there's some things you don't realize, like so we nearly missed the gigs so many times, right? Because everywhere beyond the border, right, seems to just be any insert random number after it. There's accidents that just close the whole thing down, and there's no alternatives. So, like, genuinely, especially in and around Birmingham, right? Yeah. Anything near any road in Birmingham, we drove that at 3 o'clock in the morning once and got stopped, and we were sitting there just like, "Are you kidding?" But there was so many sort of gigs that just stick out to me during that. Like, there was one we played in Northampton, right? And I don't know if you've been. I think it's called. Is it the Roadhouse, Zach? Is that what it's called?
Roadmender.
Is that the one in London? I thought. Well, basically,
no,
but there was this place, right? Roadmender. I think it might be Roadmender. You're right, in Northampton. And I'm no joking. You walked in and it was a gym hall. You know how when you go back to school and it was like the wooden floors, like, and you had your plimsolls on and you're sitting there. It was like that, right? And we were like, "What the hell is this place?" In Northampton on a Sunday night. Right, Northampton Sunday night. Never been in Northampton, and the place looked a bit run down for the outside. I'm just saying, right? And we were like totally fine, looking forward to it. But we were the openers, so you're the opener. You have to understand where you are in that. And we were like, fine, it is what it is. We'll see where we get there. And that genuinely, I think, in that whole year was our favourite gig. It was amazing. Everybody just gelled with who we were and understood us. And also there was a weird Scottish connection there, which I think helped. There was a lot of Celtic fans in Northampton, weirdly. But that was just, I don't know, it was just like, see, getting to play to these crowds in these size of venues, we were able to run about, we were able to really like express ourselves in different ways. And I just remember being so exhausted every day. And then as soon as you started playing, you were like, I love this. I could do this forever. And it was such a strange thing of like energy dips and then a massive like spark of like, this is the best thing ever. I want to do this forever for my life. So, but I know, Zach, you probably got a different view in some of them, but.
Well, no, the Ratings tour was like, it's probably still one of the highlights of our entire career, man. I've never been more appreciative of those boys for giving us that opportunity and those experiences. We learned so much about ourselves, about how, what's required to be a successful band, and just all the effort that actually needs to go in to putting on like a really good live show. Those guys are known for their live shows, and they work their asses off to make sure that it pops every single night. So those those memories, those experiences will be with us forever. And I agree with you. Northampton was still one of the highlights of their gigs. Michael put it politely, but we did not want to be there. We just did. We pulled up to that gig. It was Sunday night. We were shattered. We'd been gigging. That was the fourth gig after our own headline in Glasgow, then driving down to Southend, or maybe it was the third gig, but driving to Southend like 10, 11 hours on the road, and then going up to Northampton on the Sunday night and just being like absolutely tired. Pulled up, and it didn't look like much from the outside, as Michael said. And then as we walked on stage, everyone had came in early, and they just seemed to enjoy our music. Like, we've never actually been back to Northampton. We really need to make the effort to get back there. But yeah, the road life is difficult, but there's all these tiny little 30-minute segments of just pure joy that makes it all worth it, man.
It's inspirational, isn't it, when you just look at, Rotherham from where I'm from originally, like Rotherham is Sheffield way type of way, and the 2,000 tickets off selling 20,000 people at Clifton Park in. Just it's inspirational, isn't it? It just proves it can be done, and we're
an incredible work ethic, and it's so it's like a total worthwhile. Like, you can see them doing amazing, and there's like a meritocracy to what they're doing. They haven't just been given it; they've earned it, and we've seen that, and we've been part of that sort of journey for a wee bit. And see, the thing for us, right, is that one of the main things is we actually bet them at the mini hoops game in the arcade outside where
Southend arcade.
Southend on Sea. I think that's important to just stick in, right? That's a massive factor. So they might be headlining Clifton Park, but can he play the wee mini hoop game, right? But I just remember there was so many nuggets that they gave us, but we were so interested in how they done what they done, and they were always forthcoming with advice and like giving us the absolute, this is what we would do, this is what you should do. And I think that's like, there was a genuine kind of like appreciation there, that we weren't just like some little opening act who was getting drunk and going like, wait, it was none of that. It was like, we really appreciate this opportunity and we want to seize it. What we didn't appreciate is they went into a different stratosphere the following year, and we were like, wow, this is like, this is class to see. But we learned so much from them, and we still keep in contact with them. Keep in contact with our manager, Rich. He's a really good guy. He's really kind of helped us navigate some of the tricky terms in this world as well. So none but praise for the guys.
Right. So let's look ahead a little bit then. So what's coming up for Dictator? What can we talk about? What can't we talk about? Well, you can't tell me what you can't talk about. What can you talk about?
Can't talk about anything. Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Absolutely. You get nothing. Nah.
We've got we're going to release a lot of new music this year. Lots.
Okay.
The first release is actually coming really soon, but we've not announced the release date yet. Okay. And I don't want to give it away quite yet at this point in time. But there's plenty of new tunes. I think we're dropping a new EP at the end of the year as well. And as well as that, in between all of that, we're working on recording what will hopefully be our debut album.
There we go.
That's the key one for us. Everyone's been leading up to this, right? We had to sit down the drawing board and say, at what point do you just start doing an album? What we realised is we have had to find our own way of doing that, right? But we found our own way. We know we've got the path that we've been kind of wandering and just kind of lit up. And we were like, cool. And that's the first time in a long time that we've actually seen something in front of us and going, cool, this makes sense, let's do it. I think last year, focus was on live. The focus was on touring. Focus was on getting used to doing that. And we've realised that actually your attention's so diverted from the social media stuff, from the songs and all the stuff that you love doing, that we love making music and releasing music, mate. That is literally why we do this. Because we get to express ourselves and release it. And see, when we went that long without releasing a song, we were like, what are we doing? What are we doing this for? Now, all that aside, the fact that we're able to go and sell out shows without releasing songs, unbelievable. Like, we genuinely, that's amazing. But we need to be releasing music. You know, we need to be a lot more active, and we know that, and we genuinely can't wait. So we went away and done loads of work to get ready. That hopefully this year and into next year, there's no extended breaks because we know what we're doing.
I feel nicely teased. I think we're going to leave people wanting, aren't we? Yeah, I think that's a
big announcement coming soon. Check back here.
We're all fucking hypocrites. We all do it. Right, and so I'm going to put a link to the band's socials within the description of this podcast, ladies and gentlemen. So if somebody's watching this podcast that are new to Dictator as a band, what would you say to those people hovering over the link that are about to invest in your band? What would you say to some that haven't pressed a button yet and they're just about to, and they just not made it?
Don't click it. Just leave it. Just get on with your life. You'll never hear from us again. Nah, to be fair, it depends. Because the mad thing is chucking everything at everybody and be like, click this, do this. We genuinely, right? If you like, go and listen to our EP. Go and listen to Rubik's Cube. And see if you like that, click the link because you'll like what we've got coming next, right? See if you don't like that, don't worry, it's totally different. So hopefully you'll like it anyway. I think that's appropriately on the fence enough.
Yeah, nice. Well, Zach, Michael, really appreciate you joining us this evening as well. We've all had long shifts today. I hope people realise, that we're all knackered and we've all had long shifts at work today, haven't we, lads?
Yes. Definitely, man.
Got Wagamama's waiting on me though. So
have you, mate? Oh, well, we'll let you get off for some snap. But Zach, Michael, really appreciate you joining us today for another edition of this podcast. Thanks for everybody for watching and staying to the end. It's very much appreciated. Chuck us a subscribe if you can be asked. And we'll see you again next week for some more live music and chat. Nice one. Thanks for joining us, boys.
Thanks for having us, man.
Cheers.